In the last video, we refactored the app component into a class-based component so that we can easily call an action creator from it one time to attempt to fetch our current user the instant our application starts to load. We're now going to hook up our app component to our Redux store by using the connect helper from the React Redux library. By doing so, we'll be making sure that the app component can actually call an action creator. So step one is going to be to import the connect helper from the React Redux library. After we've imported that, we'll then import all the different action creators from our actions file. So we'll first import connect from React Redux. Then we will import star as actions from .. the actions file. Okay, so just a quick review here. Remember, the React Redux library is all about compatibility between the React and the Redux libraries. Redux was built assuming that you were not going to use it with React at all. So to get Redux to work nicely with React, we make use of the React Redux library. In particular, we make use of the connect function to give certain components the ability to call action creators. So that's why we imported connect right here. Secondly, we imported all the different action creators from our actions index.js file. Right now, we only have a single action creator in there, but very shortly we will have many different ones. So we're going to just pull out all the different action creators we've defined in there by writing star as actions, which essentially means take all the different action creators we've defined and just assign them to the object actions right here. So now we'll make use of the connect helper and the actions object to wire them all up to the app component. Tongue twister. Okay, so let's do it at the very bottom. So here's our export default statement. And remember what the connect function looks like. We say connect, we place one set of parentheses, and then we place a second set around the app object. The first argument is reserved for the map state to props argument, or the map state to props function, which we're not going to use on this component. So we're just going to say null for that first argument. And then for the second argument, we pass in all the different action creators that we want to wire up. So we'll pass in actions like so. Okay, one last step, and then we will be able to actually test this inside the browser. Remember that once we pass in all these different actions, they are assigned to the app component as props. So now inside of the app component, we can call our action creator by referencing this.props and then the name of the action creator, which in this case we had named as fetch user right here. So this.props.fetch user, like so. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Now the last thing we have to do is make sure that we've got like some way to verify and test and make sure that the data that says whether or not our user is actually logged in gets communicated to our reducer. So I'm going to open up our reducer's auth reducer file. So here's our auth reducer, which is eventually going to be responsible for determining whether or not the user is actually logged in. And we're just going to add a console log statement in here to log every single action that this reducer gets called with. So now, in theory, let's walk through the entire flow just very briefly because I know we've kind of talked through the theory enough here. When the React application boots up, the app component will automatically call the action creator. The action creator will make the AJAX request. Once the request is resolved, we get access to the dispatch function and we will automatically, on our own, very manually I would say, dispatch an action. That action will be then sent off to all of our different reducers, of which there's only one right now, so just the auth reducer, and we've got our console log in there to verify that the action is coming across. So at this point, we are really testing many different pieces of this flow, many different moving pieces. So I want to tell you right now that if you get any error or if we don't see the console log or anything like that, it is totally fine. All we got to do is a little bit of troubleshooting because there's a lot of different steps in here where something could have gone poorly. So let's test this out and see how we're doing. I will flip back over to the React application. Now my server is not currently running, so I'm going to make sure I start it back up by going back over to my terminal. I'm going to change to the server directory and I'll start everything up with npm run dev. So we'll just let that do its thing here very briefly. It should be faster than previous because I actually just restarted a lot. I actually just restarted my laptop and usually runs much faster after that. So let's watch the development server start up. Oh, awkward pause. I know, awkward pause. Okay, so it looks like we've got a little bit of a warning here. It says fetch user is assigned a value but never used. Again, recall that this error right here is just saying, hey, you actually created this variable but didn't use it. This is completely fine right now, totally fine. We will just go over to our actions index.js file. You'll notice that I assigned fetch user to the variable fetch user. I assigned the actual action creator, but I never actually exported it from this file. So let's make sure that we actually export it by saying export const fetch user. So we just forgot the export keyword there. So now if we save this, we should be able to go back over and not see any error messages or anything like that. I think that we're good to go. Okay, so now back inside the browser, I'm going to refresh the page so we really go from scratch. Now we see 4 console logs here. 1 console log from every action that comes into that reducer, the auth reducer. Now the first 3 are a part of the Redux boot up process, so we don't really care about these. We really care about the 4th one, which is going to tell us whether or not the user is signed in. So we can look at the action. You'll see that it has a type fetch user. So it definitely appears that Redux Thunk worked correctly. We definitely made the request to our backend server, and then after the request was completed, we dispatched an action which was sent directly to all of our different reducers. Now if we expand this thing and look at the payload object, you'll notice a couple different properties in here. So this is the Axios response object. The thing has a property data which communicates back the actual JSON that the server sent to us. So if we expand data right here, I will see right away my actual user model. So here's my Google ID, here's my user ID, and that's pretty much it. We are definitely now able to ask our server whether or not the user's logged in. Now, before you pause the video, if you don't see any data here, just don't pause the video. I want to be really clear. If you do not see any data right here, like if it's just an empty string, that is totally okay. It very likely means that you are just not logged in to the Express side of the application. Remember, you can always manually test to see if you are logged into the application by going to localhost:5000/API/current user. And when I do so, I should see my current user appear on the screen. So if you do not see your current user right here, and I can show you exactly what you probably see. I'll go to API/logout, which remember logs us out of the application. So I'm now considered to be logged out. And now if I refresh, you will see a payload with a data of empty string, like so, which means no, we are not signed in. So if you see that, that means you're not logged out. And remember, you can always log back in by manually going to localhost:5000 auth/Google. So I'm now logged back in, even though I see this message right here. And if I refresh the app again, I now have a payload with the data property of my user model. Cool, so it looks like everything is working out successfully. Now I want to tell you, if you have any errors at this point, totally fine, hop over to the discussion, post a screenshot, let me know what's going wrong, let me help you solve the issue, okay? Now, I think that we've done pretty well at this point. The next thing I want to do, remember, I want to take a break, obviously, but when we come back, we're going to refactor our fetch user action creator to make it look a little bit nicer than what it looks like right now. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to refactor this action creator and make sure that it looks a lot more legible than it looks at present. So I'll see you in just a second.